Mega Man X5 is not a game I like. After the near perfect game that was Mega Man X4, I was hoping for something great. Maybe not as good as that game, but still something good. Instead, I was left disappointed, and just wanted to get the game over with so I could shut it off. And so, today, I want to talk about all the ways in which this game fails. But first, if you could scroll down and subscribe, it'd be much appreciated. Right now, I'm at about 300 subscribers, and I want to hit 500 by the end of the year. So if you could subscribe, it'd be great. It's free and does nothing but support the channel. But, without further ado, Mega Man X5. The story starts with these two guys talking about their evil plan. This guy is obviously Sigma. This other guy is a brand new character named Dynamo. Dynamo is a pretty cool dude. He just treats everything like a fun joke and is always having a good time. Very entertaining. Anyway, Dynamo and Sigma are talking about their plan to load up the space colony, Eurasia, with the virus descending crashing to the Earth. But first, Sigma must take care of two Reploids. We spawn into the intro stage, and Aelia, the new Maverick Hunter Navigator, tells us that Sigma and Zero were last spotted near a statue, so naturally we've got to go find them. Right off the bat, X controls the exact same as before. Again, this is automatically a good thing. As for the intro stage itself, it's good. Just like the four previous intro stages, it does its job to teach new players the mechanics and controls of Mega Man X. Well, it is worse than prior intro stages, but just put a pin in that for now. Two new mechanics are introduced to us here. First, ducking. It's kinda surprising that a mechanic as simple as ducking was introduced 19 platformers in, but better late than never I suppose. Ducking is as simple as it sounds. Hold down and X/0 will only take up half the vertical space they normally do. Secondly, there are the new ropes. If you jump and hold up in midair near these ropes, you'll automatically attach to them, and you can move on the ropes, dash on them, and fire while on them. Overall, I'm perfectly neutral on ducking and the ropes. They aren't bad, they aren't any sort of clutter, but they don't really add much, but I'd rather have them than not have them, so... At the end of the stage, we reach the statue and meet up with Zero. He's pretty banged up, literally down an arm. The statue begins breaking apart as Sigma reveals he was hiding in it. Of course we take him down, but it appears that this is exactly what Sigma wanted. Immediately after, the Sigma virus is dispersed around the world, turning many Reploids and machines maverick. And at the exact same time, Dynamo has dropped Eurasia and is going to crash into the Earth in about 16 hours. We can't really do much about the Sigma virus, so we're going to attempt to destroy Eurasia before it collides with the Earth. The only weapon the Maverick Hunters currently have to destroy it is the Enigma Cannon. Unfortunately, the cannon isn't currently operational, so we need to power it up with some devices. There's also a space shuttle we can use to destroy the colony, but thanks to the Sigma virus, its autopilot system is inactive, so someone will need to manually fly it into the colony, which is basically a suicide mission. We need 4 items to power up the Enigma Cannon: the Crystal Ball from Crescent Grizzly, Hydrogen from Tidal Whales Ocean, an Energy Card from Volt Kraken, and a laser device from Shining Firefly. We then pick a stage, and we're off. So, X5 is off to a strong start. This is an entirely new premise for an X game, and personally, I dig it. It was getting kinda stale for Reploids to be rebelling against humans for 4 games straight, but humans have nothing to do with this. It's just a giant colony crashing towards the Earth, we've got basically nothing, and we're gonna save the day anyway. Wrong game. Anyway. It's unique, it's interesting, and I love it. We also have some new characters, the Hunter Support Team. On paper, I like this. X and Zero have always been a part of the Maverick Hunters, but we've only ever seen these two, and then random other people like Dr. Kane, or traitors like Double. Now we've got some actual characters to help out during missions. Aelia, the Navigator, who has general tips, Douglas, the nerd, who's an expert mechanic and engineer, and Cygnus, the leader of the Maverick Hunters, being the calm and collected commander who can always find the best strategy in any situation. So on paper, this sounds great. In practice, these new characters fall pretty flat. Douglas and Cygnus are 2 characters who sound really cool, but I'd say they don't do much. Douglas basically only appears whenever someone asks about the Enigma Cannon or the shuttle. He doesn't have much to say beyond exposition regarding those 2 things. Cygnus does a bit more. Being the commander of the Hunters, he gives out orders, but I mean, these are basic and simple orders that I could probably give out. His bio says that he's got the most incredible and precise CPU in a Reploid to date, and that he always keeps his cool in tough situations. However, we don't really see this at all. Again, his orders are so simple that if I were in his position, I'd probably be saying the exact same stuff. Simply put, these 2 characters are cool in concept, but when we see them, They just give an exposition instead of any actual character. Aelia though, she is a separate issue and a much worse one. I mentioned earlier in the intro stage that X5's intro stage is the worst in the series, and that's for one simple reason. Aelia does not know how to shut up. She will constantly interrupt you, breaking the flow and pace of stages to a screeching halt, only to tell you the simplest, most obvious, and most mundane stuff ever. And in this playthrough, I decided to actually do the unthinkable and slog through everything she says. Over the course of my playthrough, guess how long it took? About 22.5 minutes just dedicated to her talking. My full playthrough of the game, including grinding and backtracking, was a little more than 4 hours. Now then, 22 minutes over 4 hours doesn't sound like much. It's only 9%. But when you're just playing through the game, trying to get through it, and you get stopped dead in your tracks just to hear the basicest, most simplest thing ever, yeah, it feels a lot longer than 22 minutes. And it'd be one thing if there was actually some personality or anything interesting being said, but it's not like any of her personalities shine through in these exchanges. Hell, X and Zero don't even say anything back to her. It's just her expositing like she read this stuff off the wiki. Honestly, whoever decided to have this in the game, it should have been fired. I hate it. For the stages, X5 easily has the worst in the series so far. Every stage has one of two core problems. The stage is either really slow or really short. Let's get the biggest example out of the way, Deep Sea Submarine. You spend the entire level going through the slowest autoscroller known to man, and you have a tiny platforming section that is so simple I could have made it. And the stage is about 8 minutes of just this. A boring and slow autoscroller where you have simple terrain to jump through and simple attacks to dodge. It's mindless, it's boring, have I mentioned it's slow? Oh, and fun fact, if you're going for 100% completion, you'll have to come back here twice. But that's a separate issue for later. Let's look at another stage, Super Electromagnetic Lab. This stage is mostly infamous for the opening Ride Chaser segment. To be honest, I don't have much of an issue with this. It's really short and really fun. Are there obstacles that you can't see coming and will most likely kill new players? Yes. This doesn't bother me for two reasons. One, I am not a new player. I have already memorized the stage and know exactly what's coming ahead. Two, just like X4, lives and game overs mean nothing. If you die, you simply respawn at the last checkpoint, which most of the time isn't too far away. And if you get a game over, you also respawn at the last checkpoint. So you aren't losing much when you get a game over. And honestly, this is the change I kinda like, as it means simply dying isn't much of a punishment, and it forces the level designers to think of a more interesting punishment than you just get sent back a few feet. Mainly though, I like this Ride Chaser segment because it's just really fun to blast through all these obstacles at light speed while also grabbing these 8 energy balls scattered around that you have to collect. And just like the rest of the segment, these balls are fun to grab thanks to how fast you're moving, making it a challenge, and thanks to how game overs work, so if you mess up you don't lose too much. However, I didn't bring up the stage for the Ride Chaser segment. I brought it up thanks to the puzzle inside the actual lab. The doors you have to go through are locked, and you have to push these switches into place, but they reset if you leave them alone for too long. It gets more challenging as you have to juggle pushing 2 switches into place and then juggle pushing 2 of them over spikes. This is the part of the stage I dread doing, simply because of how long it takes. This isn't the sort of puzzle where you really have to use your brain to figure out exactly what you need to do. I already know exactly what I need to do, but the issue is that I have to wait for the switch to move one increment, then hit it again, then hit it again. Later on, I need to hit one, move up and hit the other one, go back down, hit the first one. You get the idea by this point. This is a puzzle where you already know what to do, and you just need to do it. The issue is that what I'm doing is not fun. What about Runaway Truck? This stage doesn't have any sort of auto-scrolling or puzzles, surely it must be great. And while it is probably the best stage in the game besides the castle stages, I still don't like it too much. Basically, you're on a train and you need to destroy the train and move on to the next one and keep doing that until you reach the cave. After a little bit though, you'll have a small platforming and rope segment and you have to rush through some trains that are already exploding. Overall, I'd say this stage is well designed, with you just needing to run forward and destroy some enemies with some light platforming, kinda like X4's military train. The issue with the stage is that it's very short. It only lasts for like 2 or 3 minutes, maybe less. However, I think my least favorite stage in the game will be Planetarium. This stage is split into 2 parts, and I honestly don't have much of an issue with the second section. It's perfectly fine with an interesting gravity flipping gimmick. It's a bit too short for my liking, but other than that, pretty solid. My issue comes with the first section of the stage. You spend a little bit of it just running through a straight line of level design until you reach this moving platform that you need to stand on and wait while it moves at the speed of molasses. The most player input here is jumping onto another platform for a little bit because the moving one is going somewhere you can't, or when you have to just duck underneath some spikes. It's slow, it's boring, I'm not engaged, and it sucks. The worst part of the stage though is the slowdown. Now, previous X games have had slowdown before. My mind immediately goes to breaking the glass in the airport or taking down the ship in the ocean. The difference is that those segments of slowdown didn't last very long, and were only there because of a singular element that caused the system to slow down. Here, the slowdown lasts what feels like a long time, and will keep on happening because I honestly don't know. I looked it up and I didn't get any sort of answers. My money is on the background. So basically, this stage has a really slow auto-scrolling segment, plus a really irritating slowdown. So the stages aren't that great, but maybe they can make up for it by having really cool items and armors. Unfortunately, they don't make up for it. Firstly, the 4th armor's back. Honestly, that's an interesting idea and kinda cool. The 4th armor is easily the best so far, and a top tier armor in the entire series, so it's nice to have it. Secondly, there are 2 new armors in this game instead of just 1, the Falcon armor and Gaia armor. I'll be honest, I don't like them that much. The Falcon armor is pretty mid, as its big thing is that it can fly. That's cool, but there aren't many places I find that ability useful besides the 2 items that require it. Other than the flight, there isn't really anything going for it. It has a lame charge shot, which is really small. I'm pretty sure X with no armor has a better charge shot. It has an air dash, but every armor since the 2nd armor has had that. Editing Zemshia here. Apparently the Falcon armor does not have an air dash for some reason. So it's on track for being the worst armor yet. The 1st armor at least has the excuse of giving you the regular dash. What else? It can't charge special weapons for some reason. It has a lame Giga attack. Yeah, I got nothing. This armor is serviceable, but there's nothing going for it. The Gaia armor honestly isn't much good, and I can see someone saying it's actually bad, which is a first. The Gaia armor's big thing is defense. For the first time in this franchise, you can walk on spikes, which is honestly really cool, at least on paper. In concept though, I do not care because that ability isn't too useful except for a few times. You can also now stick to walls instead of sliding down them. Again, interesting on paper, but it means nothing in real gameplay. Sliding down walls has never been any sort of annoyance. If anything, I kinda liked it because it gave me a chance to just button mash and have fun. You also take a lot less damage than you normally do, which is cool. Your basic shot is also kinda big, and the charge shot can be charged within about a second. That's about it for the pros though. For the cons of this armor, it's really slow, which is already really bad given how slow everything else in this game is. Your shots also don't reach that far, so you're gonna need to get close to an enemy if you want to deal damage. And you can't use any special weapons at all. So both of these armors aren't that great, and while they work, I'd literally take any prior armor over these ones. Which is why I just stick with the 4th armor for the entire game unless I need an ability that the Falcon or Gaia armor has. And this has always felt weird to me. You put in the armor from the old game, and you did such a bad job at making new armors that I just used the old one. Honestly, this is the clearest sign that the devs messed up here. You don't create 2 new toys while still having the old one be better. That is not how you want players engaging with your new content. It gets even more interesting for 2 reasons. Firstly, it's possible to just not have the 4th armor at all. As soon as you start a new game, you get hit with the character select screen just like X4. Naturally, you'd think you'd have 2 separate campaigns for X and Zero just like last game. Instead, this character selects chooses who you'll play as in the intro stage and who gets a buff during the main campaign, since X and Zero are in one playthrough and you choose who you'll play as right before a stage. If you pick X in this character select screen, then you place X in the intro stage, and you get the 4th armor. If you pick Zero in the character select screen, you play as him in the intro stage and you get the Z Buster. The Z Buster is absolutely worthless. It's slow and deals little damage. So basically your choices are one of the best armors in the series or slow, weak, and bad attack. Game balancing at its finest, folks. The second reason the armor system gets more interesting is that, for the first time in the series, you cannot use an armor part until you complete the set. If you get the Falcon armor parts, you cannot use them until you get the other 3 pieces. This just sucks. It's a limitation I honestly cannot think of a reason for. Now, I understand not immediately being able to use that armor piece, but what if you grab the Gaia armor head parts and currently have the 4th armor equipped, or the Falcon armor? Are you gonna mix and match parts like that? As we'll see later on, that'd be rad as all hell, but for now, no, we aren't doing that. This is fine, but why can I not just use the armor parts I currently have in the stage select? When picking a character, why can I not just use the Falcon armor foot and body parts that I already got? I guess this is just all the more reason to use the 4th armor since I can't use the Falcon armor until the mid-game, and I can't use the Gaia armor until the castle stages. There are also the 8 heart tanks and 4 sub-tanks that we've always had. They function the exact same as last time. The EX tank is still worthless, but the weapon tank has been made more useful. Zero now has 3 techniques that use weapon ammo instead of 1, and the 4th armor and Falcon armor do not have infinite weapon ammo. So the weapon tank is finally useful, and the 2 regular sub-tanks are just the same. However, my big issue is with the heart tanks. Now once again, X and Zero share a campaign. This brings up the issue of the heart tanks. I find this kinda interesting, as when you grab a sub-tank it goes to both characters. When you grab a heart tank though, it only goes to the one character you grabbed it as. So if you grab one as X, his health bar increases while Zero's does not. Why exactly did they do this? It just makes things more complicated than it needs to be. Oh wait, no, the devs thought of that. Things are not more complicated than it needs to be because 5 of the 8 heart tanks are just not obtainable as Zero. Ingenious thinking, guys. So if you want to play through the entire game as Zero, have fun doing it without most of the heart tanks. Now you may be thinking, how in Etro's name did they lock off 5 of the heart tanks? Well, they did it by requiring armor pieces. The heart tanks on Runaway Truck, Deep Sea Submarine, Super Electromagnetic Lab, Laser Institute, and Jungle all require the Gaia armor's immunity to spikes. Or, well, technically you can grab the heart tank and Runaway Train and Laser Institute with the Falcon armor, but that still means only X can grab them. And since you need armors for these heart tanks, you'll need to backtrack to get them. Now then, to be honest, I have not had any sort of problem with backtracking in previous X games. If I needed to backtrack somewhere, it was usually quick, like the heart tank in X4's Jungle or the Snow Mountain, and I usually went through, a fun and well-designed stage. I cannot say the same thing here. As I've described earlier, none of these stages are fun at all, so I don't want to play through them again. Unfortunately, since the heart tanks require the Gaia armor, you have to come back once you complete it to grab the heart tanks. And if you don't know, the Gaia armor can only be completed once you beat all 8 Mavericks. The first 4 Maverick stages contain the pieces for the Falcon armor, and you need the Falcon armor's flight to grab the Gaia armor's foot parts and body parts. So once you beat every stage, you need to go through most of them again just to grab the heart tanks. This is even worse for Deep Sea Submarine, because the Falcon armor's body parts require Goo Shaver, and guess who you get that from? So the stages suck, the armors are mid, and the collectibles suck because you can't get them until the very end. This game is looking pretty bad at the moment, but worry not, it gets worse. We've only got a few more things to talk about before the endgame, so first, the weapons. To be totally honest, I did not use them unless I was forced to. I think I used Goo Shaver once to get the Falcon armor body parts, and I used C-Shot to disable the prism generators. Oh, and Darkhold during Zero Space Stage 1. No, not that Darkhold, the other one. Other than that, these weapons are fine. Tri-Thunder is literally just Thunder Beam, that's a neat reference. Honestly, at this point in the Mega Man franchise, we've gotten to the point where nobody uses special weapons because your base weaponry works just fine. Why should I bother figuring out the best applications for each weapon, wasting time and taking damage, when the X-Buster and regular Z-Saber slashes work just fine? And honestly, this has been a problem since they added charging in Mega Man 4. I guess this is why the weapons work so well in Mega Man 9. They removed charging. I don't think they'll do that for X, so my solution would probably just be to reduce the number of special weapons you get and create cool and interesting puzzles and challenges using them. And from my limited knowledge of the Zero games, they do just that. But that's a story for a later time. The bosses, I guess they're better in this game. Taking them all Buster only, some of them provided a real challenge like Spiral Pegasus or Volt Kraken, and I was just able to stand still and damage boost through someone like Spike Rose Red. I don't remember Spark Mandrill Syndrome being much of a thing in this game, so points for improvement. To be honest though, I didn't care much for the bosses at all. I just wanted to get them over with so I could move on and finish the game. Oh, and speaking of the bosses, their names got changed in localization to cool Guns N' Roses references. Grizzly Slash, Duff McQuailin, Squid Adler, Izzy Glow, Dark Dizzy, The Skyver, Matrix, and Axel the Red. This is kinda cool, but I do prefer the regular Maverick names that are more in line with the previous games. I'm also not much of a Guns N' Roses fan, so I don't really get these references. After you defeat a boss, Aelia will ask you to pick which item to create, weapons and life or weapons and energy. And later in the game, pluses will be added to these options. This is in relation to the part system. And X5's part system is one of my most hated things in Mega Man. Not because the parts themselves are bad, but because the game explains literally none of this to you. What I'm about to tell you, I only know because I looked this up on the wiki. Mainly, the parts depend on the boss level. See this number underneath the boss's health bar? Yeah, this is their level. It's tied to how many hours are left until your Razor crashes into the earth. When you defeat a boss that's level 4 through level 7, you only get regular weapon energy/life options. Selecting life will increase the character's health bar, like a heart tank, and selecting energy will increase the character's weapon ammo. For some reason though, these buffs are only applied to the next character to complete a stage. So if X defeats a boss and the next stage is completed by 0, then 0 will receive the stat boost. Parts come into play once you defeat a boss that's level 8 or higher. Pluses are added to the weapon and life/energy options, and this means you'll get a part alongside the chosen energy upgrade. The part that you receive depends on which boss you just killed and whether you chose life or energy. As such, out of the 16 parts in the game, you can only get 8 in a normal playthrough unless you hack your save file. So after all that, you get a part. To be honest, I didn't use this all that much. I don't really know what these parts do besides what they're called unless I go to the wiki, and I only got a few. From what I remember, I only really used the Hyper Dash, which increases dash speed/distance, Jumper, which increases jump height by 25%, and Ultimate Buster, which automatically fires charge shots when you hit the shoot button. I like these parts well enough, and you feel absolutely incredible using them thanks to the power-up. There are also some more limitations, as different characters and armors can use different amount of parts. No Armor X and Zero can have 4 parts equipped, the 4th, the Falcon and Ultimate Armor can have 2 equipped, and the Gaia Armor cannot have any equipped. So overall, the parts themselves are kinda cool, but I wish I got to play around with more of them, and I really wish the game explained what the hell was going on with them. Seriously, how in Primus's name was Aelia able to tell me don't jump down bottomless pits, you might die, but when I actually need her to explain something, that's when she decides to not be helpful. I think the last thing I have to talk about before the endgame will be the soundtrack. I spent the entire video just tearing this game apart and explaining why it sucks, but the OST is not something I can do that with. This is one of my favorite Mega Man OSTs and the best one so far. We have got just some incredible tracks, like Laser Institute, Super Electromagnetic Lab, Zero Space, and of course, X vs. Zero. By the way, if you didn't know, a remix with vocals was created for the 25th anniversary of the franchise, and it is awesome. Please go listen to it. There's also the opening song, Monkey, and ending song, Mizu no Naka. They're pretty good, I like them both. Fun fact, both songs are sung by Shotaro Morikubo, who also plays Dynamo in X5, and he plays X in X5, X6, and X7. So after all that, it's time for the endgame. After defeating the first 4 Mavericks, you have all the parts for the Enigma and you fire it. It didn't work, so on to using the shuttle and grabbing the parts for that. You grab all 4 parts and Zero pilots the shuttle into Eurasia, and it works. The colony has been basically destroyed, and although bits and pieces will land onto the Earth, it won't be nearly as catastrophic. Well, I've gotta go now. I'll just turn the game off and come back a bit later. Alright, I'm back. Oh, I saved right before the shuttle launched. Whatever, it'll be fine. What the hell? Didn't work? What just happened? Hold on, does Zero just turn Maverick? He's challenging X to some sort of fight? What the f? Oh, right, the RNG. By the light of Lothal's moons, can things just not be simple? So basically, your ending is tied to RNG. When you fire the Enigma or Shuttle, a bunch of numbers are crunched, and if you're lucky, the Enigma or Shuttle will succeed. The thing with the Enigma is that even if you grab all 4 parts to power it up, it'll still fail most of the time anyway. Apparently there is a way to get the Enigma to succeed, even without grabbing any of the parts, but I didn't get it to work. I'm just gonna assume I have some sort of skill issue. With the Shuttle, it has a much higher likelihood of succeeding. Once you fire both the Enigma and the shuttle, you can either get the good ending or the bad ending. If either the Enigma or the shuttle succeeds in destroying Eurasia, you get the good ending where Zero is just fine and you move on to the castle stages as normal. However, if neither the Enigma nor the shuttle destroys Eurasia, then Zero gets corrupted with the Maverick virus and he becomes Awakened Zero. This is the persona of the Wily originally intended for Zero before Sigma defeated him. And now you can't play as Zero during the castle stages and you're stuck with X. On paper, having a good ending and bad ending is a perfectly fine idea, and honestly, it's really cool to see Zero turn Maverick and challenge X to one last showdown. The series has been hinting that the two will have to fight since X2 or X3, and it's great to see it paid off. The issue comes with the fact that there are no clear parameters for achieving the good or bad endings. Yes, you can assume that the parameters are, did you destroy the Enigma, but it's very easy to just reload your save file and get a different outcome even if you did absolutely nothing differently. If you didn't know how the RNG worked and just played normally, you'd be exceptionally confused as to what the hell just happened with your game. Just like the part system, this is cool in concept and it still kinda sorta works, but it would have been infinitely better if I didn't need to go to the wiki to understand it. This also brings up a separate, slightly smaller problem. In the bad ending, again, Zero turns Maverick, and you can't play as him anymore. So if you just play as Zero the entire game and spend all your time leveling him up, you're kinda screwed. The dev solution was what I mentioned earlier, locking most of the heart tanks behind the Falcon or Gaia armor. Again, in concept, keeping some stuff for X in case you're locked at a Zero is fine enough, but could you have not created a better and less obtuse solution like, oh, I don't know, having heart tanks go to both characters? But after all that, it's time for the castle stages. Zero Space. Zero Space Stage 1 is kinda cool as it's basically just one big Quickman homage. And I do respect the intention, even if they did pick the worst classic stage from the original 6 games. And just like Mega Man 2, the entire laser section can be skipped by just using Time Stopper, I mean Darkhold. The boss of this stage is the Shadow Devil, which I believe is the first devil boss in this series. Again, they picked probably the worst boss that they could have pulled from, but I do respect the intention and I did still have a bit of fun with this fight. Stage 2 brings back Rangda Bangda from X1, and I don't have much to say here beyond that reference. The fight itself is as good as always, and I guess it's cool how incentivized the Gaia armor is with the spikes, and that it'd be more beneficial for you to stick to one instead of sliding down them. Stage 3 is the best stage though, for 2 reasons. Firstly, if you enter the stage as Zero or No Armor X and you drop down this pit, you find a light capsule. Step inside and you unlock Ultimate Armor X or Black Zero. I didn't mention this in the X4 video, but if you enter the Ultimate Armor cheat code when selecting Zero, you got Black Zero. No gameplay difference whatsoever, Zero just has a black paint job and it looks awesome. It's also really cool how you can get these armors legitimately now. However, the second reason this stage is so good is what's at the end. X vs Zero. I love this fight. It's basically just a souped up version of their X2 fight. The two of them are fast and ferocious and aren't holding anything back. It's great. The music is also incredible as I mentioned. However, there is one thing holding this fight back. In the bad ending, Zero has turned Maverick and is now Awakened Zero, which works just fine. In the good ending, however, Zero is just fine, but he's hanging out here for no reason. X basically says, Zero, I do trust you to be fine. That's what's gonna kick the crap out of you and bring you back to base. Like, what the hell is that? This is the sort of fight justification you could see in a Sonic Rivals game. After that incredible fight, Sigma finally reveals himself. And you go to stage 4. This stage has the boss rush, and they did finally make an actual change to the bosses this time around. They now have health bars the size of the screen. Honestly, I still really did not care at all. I can just use the Nova Strike to take care of these clowns quickly. Then we have the first Vanish Block segment in this series. Thankfully it's pretty easy and isn't much of a headache. Then you have the final fight against Sigma. Psycho Sigma is a fine enough fight. Then Sigma becomes a wall again, except it's clearly just a PNG. You can easily just Nova Strike your way to victory here. Once you defeat him, Sigma self-destructs to take X and Zero down with them. Zero's pretty badly damaged, but Sigma fires a massive laser and catches both X and Zero in the shot. Zero then smiles and shoots down Sigma, finishing him for good. In Zero's ending, he reflects on his life and starts seeing flashbacks of Iris and Wily before he dies. In X's good ending, we cut to 3 years later as the Maverick Hunters move out to take care of another Maverick, with X holding the Z-Saber in memory of his friend. And in X's bad ending, a light hologram rewrites X's memory so he forgets to fight and Death of Zero, and he now works to build Elysium, a clear nod to Legends 2. And after all this, we end Mega Man X5. Or, well, not quite. I spent all this time talking about how bad X5 is, but can the game be saved? As it turned out, yes, it can. A very popular ROM hack is the Mega Man X5 improvement project made by Ace Diaz, the same guy who made the Undup hack for X4. I never beat it prior to this video, so does it actually improve upon the game and turn it into something good? The short answer is yes. Basically, it removes and changes all the things I've spent the past 30 minutes complaining about. I hate how Aelia interrupts you constantly for no good reason. Her dialogue hasn't been changed, but you can disable her calls, so the game itself feels faster paced. I hate how slow some of the stages feel, so stages like Deep Sea Submarine have been sped up by about 120 to 150%, and Planetarium has had the weird slowdown gimmick removed. I don't like how you need to collect the entire armor to use it, so you can now use whatever armor parts you have. If you only have, say, the foot parts of the Falcon armor, there'll be a new option in the character select where you can pick the Falcon armor but it can only fly. Same thing with the Gaia armor. I hate how obtuse the part system is and how none of it is explained. It still isn't explained at all, but you can now grab all 16 parts in a single playthrough, and you get them at a much more rapid pace. As such, I actually used the parts this time around. Personally, I equipped Regular X with the Speedster, Jumper, Ultimate Buster, and Hyperdash parts. He's not too much of a beast, but he's still much more powerful than normal, with his movement speed increased by 50%, his jump height increased by 25%, automatically shooting charge shots, and a faster and longer dash. I hate how heart tanks aren't shared between X and Zero, meaning you have to choose who gets the upgrade. Now both of them do. I hated how picking Zero in the intro stage gives you the Z-Buster and takes away the 4th armor. Now you get both no matter who you pick. And lastly, backtracking was a big issue in Vanilla X5, but that's not really much of a thing anymore. Thanks to the upgraded part system and being able to use individual armor pieces, you get items much faster. For example, for the Heart Tank and the Laser Institute, you'd either need to come back with either the Falcon or Gaia armor, which requires you to have either beaten half of the Mavericks or all of them. In the Improvement Project, you can come here with only the Falcon armor's foot parts and just air dash and use Wing Spiral to grab it. I know I just sped through the changes made by the Improvement Project, and that's because 1, this video was already kinda sorta long, and 2, I don't have much to say about it other than it fixes things I don't like, so I like it. But overall, I really like the Improvement Project, and it makes X5 a whole lot better. But after all of this, Mega Man X5. Honestly, when I was planning this video, my thoughts of this game were more along the lines of it's bad, but with some good parts. Now that I've played this game again a few times for the video, nah, this game sucks. It's just awful. It's slow and has weird and obtuse decisions that just make the game a hassle to play. One of the worst Mega Man games I've played, and probably the second worst Mega Man game I've covered so far. I still hate Mega Man 9 more than this one. But the Improvement Project makes some fantastic changes to the game, and I can honestly see myself coming back to it and replaying it. It doesn't bring X5 up to S tier like X4 and X2, but I'd say it's up there with something like X1 or X3. But with all this said and done, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.